So that's how I was making my money. But then the NFT crash and the crypto crash comes in 22 because FTX and Three Arrows Capital, which is a VC that was investing in all these guys, all these guys collapsed at the same time. It was like Terra Luna, right? All of my investments just go down the drain. The thumbnail is your billboard because that's your form of marketing. The title, you have to give a promise. That's going to get the person to click. That's your marketing right there. Have you heard about the dead internet theory?
No.
So the dead internet theory is crazy because it means like, we're going to meet Mark and we're going to meet the CEO of Instagram. I'm like, no way. Before, everybody actually had to use their brain power to make content, right? Whether it be copywriting and to make a description or a YouTube description, whatever it was human powered.
Yeah.
Now it's at the point where it's training itself on AI generated stuff. There's going to be a point where AI will flood the internet so much where the internet will just be robots communicating with robots.
Hey guys, welcome to the YM show. On this episode, I had on Joseph Abehsera, who is a social media content creator. He also has his own marketing agency, media agency, which is called visible.io. We talk about everything from what a personal brand means, how you can build your personal brand, how you could build a media agency, AI, just everything. I mean, everything technology, super interesting episode. I think you'll learn a lot. Before we get into this episode, it is sponsored by GBC Facility Services. If you need your property clean, whether you're an owner, investor, real estate manager, property manager, you own a nursing home, and you are most likely overpaying if you're not using them in Florida, go to GBC Facility Services. Reach out to me at my email at yosefmanacherry@gmail.com. I'll put all the other info over there. You can reach out for a quote on your property because you're most likely overpaying if you're not using them. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. Subscribe, like, share it with a friend, and thank you. Joseph Abehsera, thank you for coming on the Yosef Manacherry show. Thanks for making the time out. I guess I'll give everyone listening just a little mini background of what you do, who you are. So you're a CEO and founder of visible.io. You're also the co-founder of Stealth, which is a startup.
It's a stealth startup.
It's a stealth startup. Okay.
So we have not yet announced the name.
Okay.
The way it works in technology, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more. Whenever you are building a tech company, and
I know nothing about tech, so
I figured
educate me.
Yeah. So the idea is that whenever you're building a tech company, you don't want people to know. You don't want to officially announce it because you want to go out with a proper launch. A lot of times, technology is about building hype. So what you do is you go in stealth mode where you're just building.
Interesting. So when I saw on LinkedIn, right, it says co-founder of Stealth Startup. So that's not the company name.
It's not the name of the company.
That's like a normal thing in that industry to do stealth startup and then it's announced essentially.
Yeah, and then you announce it with a video. You generate hype about it. When you're in stealth, you're usually testing it with beta. Okay. Oftentimes, people are raising a pre-seed in terms of VC capital.
Okay.
So that's the area. That's the where we're at right now at the company.
Okay, very cool. No, I'm totally, new to the whole, tech world. I'm learning more about it, but I love getting educated. So I guess after this stealth startup you're not talking about yet, you're going to be. I saw you posted on LinkedIn that you're going to be talking about it soon. You're going to be going. When are you going to be releasing it? Is that public knowledge yet?
Yeah, I mean, right now. So the goal is, and obviously there's more. That my first, I guess you could say, career started in media. As a content creator, but when it comes to that startup that I'm building, the idea is that right now we are testing it with beta customers. So low key, telling it to very specific people, whether it be people who we believe will eventually become a customer or a user. It's a sort of marketplace, I guess you could say, of sorts. And the idea is that we want to slowly integrating and onboard people behind the scenes before we officially announce it. Given that I'm a marketing guy, Visible is a marketing agency, especially for social, we're going to go out, we're going to have, the plan at least is to have an incredible launch video, hopefully that achieves virality and gets a lot of buzz and hype. When you have buzz and hype around your company, not only is it an incredible way to massively, to quickly onboard users, but it's also a great way to get VC attention. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes you don't want to take any money. We've had some people already offer us, investments, and we've denied them. I mean, depending on the person, right? Some people we said we may go back to them, but that's the idea. I mean, but I definitely would want to start from the beginning. I think this is like
we're jumping. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to this. No, because you corrected me on that, and so on social media, you've amassed over 500 million impressions on your content across all your platforms. You're
probably more, by the way.
Probably more. I mean, that's what you have. I mean, I'm just going off the the stats that I see online.
Yeah.
You're also a husband. You're also a father. You're also a religious Jew, and you're a content creator. So I'm kind of curious, how that works. I know like that word is cringy for a lot of people because of certain quote unquote influencers who use their platform to just push and shill products. So I'm curious what does a content creator mean to you?
I mean, it's an incredible, I think there's been a massive shift in the way people view content creators since COVID. And I think it has to do with the fact that before, influencers were primarily these very, showy people.
Yeah.
They didn't provide much value beyond making you feel bad about yourself. Whereas the post-COVID era, a lot of people were getting the majority of their information from content creators, right? So I'm in this like pocket of the content, creator economy, which is information based. I give people news about tech info, right? I give them the latest updates and what's taking place in the tech world. I give them information about the creator economy. The creator economy is massive. It's worth, tens of billions of dollars, if not, it's on, the trajectory of where it's headed is the hundreds of billions. And the idea is that the creators that I hang out with are all now high media. So all these major companies, like you could think about Adobe, Meta, these different types of Fortune, top 100 stocks, they're all inviting creators to come out and cover their events, and they're giving them inside information like they did 10, 15 years ago with a traditional media company, because they realized that their distribution is not only better than those traditional companies, but their followers trust them more. So, the CNN, the Fox, those traditional media outlets, they're dying, while individual creators, people like you and I, who are just literally making videos, whether it be from our offices or our homes, or even some people are just, talking to their camera, wherever they may be, they're outperforming those major companies. And that's where it's become recently. That's what it's become recently, and especially post TikTok, right? That really changed because the algorithm of TikTok changed everything. And the reason why the algorithm of TikTok changed everything is because instead of like having to amass a following and that's how you get exposure, the algorithm rewarded good content.
This is what Gary Vee talks about all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, it was the most, I always say this, it was one of the most revolutionary inventions in history, because the best comparison I like to make it, that I like to draw the comparison to is the invention of the printing press. And because we know before the printing press, everybody, imagine if you wanted to write a book, you had to literally sit there and handwrite the book, right?
Yeah.
We're Jewish. The Talmud, Torah was not accessible because the only way that you can get written Torah was literally if it was handwritten. That's a crazy thought. Then the printing press comes out, and now you can mass print. So media is everywhere, right? You could, all of a sudden, there's a lot more access to information. The algorithm did the same thing with the TikTok algorithm more specifically. Now, everybody's voice could be heard so long as that information was good. And that's why it was revolutionary. Post, TikTok algorithm era, the creator economy changed entirely. And I'm part of that.
No, it's really interesting to see, like, kind of what you were saying before, like, I could be wrong, but the quote unquote influencers and content creators were more of like cringy in a way, like, oh, this is my breakfast, this is my morning routine, this is my, like, it's kind of just people would watch it just for entertainment, versus now I feel like the creators are more of bringing real value. Like, you have podcasts like Chris Williamson is bringing in like awesome guests and teaching you about working out, about science, about the newest studies. You have Diary of the CEO, kind of like real, where it's like, and even have big guys like Tucker Carlson is breaking off from Fox News, or these other big people, Candace Owens, who broke off from, their, let's say, a news station and kind of made their own thing, So there's a lot, like you're saying, like individuals now, kind of to touch on what you were saying before, are getting really big, with like, amassing a big following, and they're starting to be respected a lot, which is very interesting. And I'm kind of watching this from the outside. I haven't been into that, that whole world as long as you have. Like, I literally just started stepping into it a few months ago. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, how much money is here and how interesting it is. Like, it's just really cool.
It's it's huge. Beyond being like this massive disrupt, when I introduce people, when people ask me what do I do, what I tell them is I own a media company. I have a marketing agency, and I'm in tech. And when I say I own a media company, that really is Joseph Abehsera. My handles, even though it didn't start that way, my handles on Instagram and TikTok and is Joseph Abehsera. But that is a media company, right? At the end of the day. So is the examples you gave of all those folks who own those incredible podcasts, the Diary of the CEO, that is a media company. At the end of the day, the business that he is running is, I need to garner attention, I need to get views, and then I need to sell ad spots or sell my own products via my distribution, right? So the idea is that, everybody can own a media company now. And where it gets really interesting is when brands start to also become media companies. So this is what I've been doing at Visible, my agency. This is what we really specialize in. We've come to find that the best form of marketing, especially earned marketing, earned media, comes in the form of playing the game of social media yourself, right? So, who does this best? Red Bull. Red Bull does this best. They don't pay for traditional marketing like they used to. I mean, we used to see a lot of these awesome Red Bull ads when we used to watch basketball games as kids. But in reality, the way that they market themselves is by making awesome YouTube videos. Videos like F1 car versus the fastest drone, right? That video got like 25 or 45 million views. I'm not sure. That right there is an incredible way to build your brand, right? It's an incredible way to build your brand, gain exposure in a way that's very authentic to your crowd. And it's a great way to market yourself. And it's like companies, brands are also becoming their own media companies. And it goes across the board. Every business, this can apply to every business. Mm-hmm. In your case, right? You're in real estate. You have a podcast, right? I'm assuming this podcast will funnel into your real estate business. Absolutely.
I mean, for now, I'm just using it to learn and learn about different industries, interview people, create content. Because, I feel like everyone's always consuming. So I figured it'd be cool. Like when I used to watch Joe Rogan, I'm like, wow, it's so cool. You get to sit across cool people that's like yourself and like ask them all these questions. And I'm like, well, I wish he asked that question. I wish he asked that question. You know what I mean? So I kind of like, I was thinking if I make my own podcast, I can ask whatever I want. So it's kind of cool. Not only you create content and potentially can lead to advertising businesses, but it's also I get to learn from awesome people. So
for sure, but it definitely leans into your business because you might sit across somebody who now likes you a lot, trusts you, and they'll become an investor in one of your projects.
You're saying for networking wise?
Absolutely. Networking, but also your viewers, meaning there might be a guy who is like your dream investor, your dream collaborator, meaning there might be a guy who owns a bank, okay, who watches your stuff, and now you've just opened the door to working with them without
meeting them.
And it's an incredible way to grow your business by just sitting here, not having to like fly across the world, right? Like it's just great marketing, man. It's great. It's the best way of marketing is becoming your own media company.
So what's your definition on a personal brand, right? Everyone talk about it's the big hype. Everyone's like, hey, personal brand. So how would you define a personal brand?
Well, it really is your name. And nowadays the definition really leans into social. Like, do people follow you on social media? And do those folks follow you, remembering your name, knowing exactly what you do? And do you have a certain association? Meaning like when people think about you, are they associating you with certain things? Mm-hmm. Like you, for example, you are like incredibly interested in guns, working out, like you have this whole vibe, right? In addition to that, you love business and you're an incredibly curious person. That's your brand, right? That's who you are, and that's when people look at your name or they hear your name, they associate you with that. And it's folks beyond your reach, beyond your community. It's the world.
Yeah, because I have obviously the business I'm into. It's entrepreneurship, business, but then also religion, and also my hobbies and passions are like, let's say, working out, martial arts, firearms, and a lot of type of stuff. So I don't know. I guess it kind of all just blends in together to my brand, but I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, right? Because everyone says like, hey, if you want to build a personal brand, you should keep it to one niche if you want to grow. But I'm kind of like, I don't know. I'd rather just interview people that I'm interested in and things I'm interested in versus trying to stick to one niche so I can grow quicker. You know what I mean?
Well, it falls under a niche, right? There's like micro niches and then there are macro niches. So like a micro niche, for example, would be like gun content. That's a micro niche. That is very specific. It's content as it relates to everything gun. Yeah. Right? Whereas in your case, it's like just manly shit. And sorry for cursing, but what's manly? What are some manly stuff, right? Manly stuff is business is very manly, right? Yeah. Men love business. Men love guns. Men love talking about religion. I guess you can call that you could put that under the umbrella of philosophy.
Yeah.
These are all things that are very manly, and it's a niche. You're doing man stuff. So I don't think that it's breaking out of a niche.
Interesting. I'm curious to start with like your origin and your journey, kind of how you started getting involved in content creation, how you grew, to what you are now. Like I think Instagram, you have over like 300,000 of followers, subscribers, whatever you call them, which is huge.
Yeah.
Like people people understand, like if you want to pay for an ad on, let's say like a Jewish WhatsApp status, right? Like a balaz, you probably have to pay, I think I looked into it once, like $250, and then 10,000 people will see your little message for 10 seconds, right? And you have to pay $250. So people understand you have 300,000 people that will see your post that you post. And that's without, the algorithm, I guess. Let's say it's a really good piece of content. You can have way more than your actual followers, subscribers, whatever you want to call it, see it. So that's like, it's pretty incredible. Like whether people like it or not, they're anti-social media or not, it's literally your walking billboard essentially for yourself.
Yeah, thank God I've had multiple videos do 8 million plus views, which is like, such a blessing. And I'll give you.
So I guess, just to go back to how did you start? What was your first post? What were you thinking when you started? Do you think it would turn into like 300,000? Were you like, hey, I'm just going to start?
It really all started at 14 years old. And I'll tell you what happened. So my buddies and I had two friends. I have some of my best friends still today, Eric and Mendy. Okay. These are two really good friends of mine who all three of us were really into sneakers. And what happened was we had this incredible idea, which was, what we're going to do? At the time, there was this Instagram account, I think it's still around today, called Sneaker News. And what it would do is it would give all the latest news in the sneaker, industry, the reselling industry more particularly, but, that had hype around them, the shoes. And then it would give sneaker enthusiasts information on when these sneakers were dropping so that they could go ahead and buy them. And then when when those sneakers would sell out, then they would eventually have the opportunity to resell those sneakers. So I saw this account called Sneaker News, and I was like, these guys are not doing it well. I had just, at 14, 15 years old, that's the thought I had. I could do it better. So I went ahead and we built a partnership, me and my two buddies, and my whole game was I said, I'm going to manage.
I love this at 14.
Yeah. This is
creating partnerships.
Yeah.
Whatever I created my first official OA until I was like in my 20s.
Listen, it was all verbal, obviously.
Okay.
We were in high school, everybody in 9th grade, right? But what happened is I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, the people, the accounts that are giving really good sneaker news are on Twitter. So what I would do is I would follow all the best sneaker accounts, and at the time, it was Jordan, Yeezy, on Yamaha,
Yeah.
But, those guys, they had the best sneakers to buy and then resell in terms of resale value. So I followed all those accounts that were giving news about those sneakers. And then the moment those accounts would post the news, they would be the first in the world to post that news. I would then make a post.
This is without AI, so you can't have AI.
Physically, I would sit there, sometimes in class, make a graphic design and throw it on Instagram. And we called the account Sneaker Military, right? The main idea, so why I had partners, the main idea was to start a clothing brand. But I was like, we're not going to be able to get anybody to buy our clothing brand without first having a following. How are we going to get a following? People who are into sneakers also like clothing, we'll make a sneaker news page and then eventually sell them a clothing brand. That was the whole idea here. So what I did was I had this arbitrage. The information would get released on Twitter, and then I would be the first to post it and then make a graphic design and post it on Instagram. So I was the first to post. We were the first people posting Instagram news, sneaker news to Instagram because of that arbitrage. Mm-hmm. Twitter is faster, X today, but X is faster in terms of news spread than any other platform, right? Like, for example, whenever CNN says like, President Trump made an announcement, right? That announcement now it's on True Social, but it's on X.
They're behind the ball always by like 20 minutes at least.
Exactly, but that's where he's making the tweet. Meaning the president of any country or prime minister or king, they go to Twitter, they make a post, and then it goes to the world, and then every news outlet then takes it. So I realized, wow, this is an arbitrage. And then I slowly realized everybody's doing arbitrage. Your favorite meme accounts are all doing arbitrage. Your favorite news accounts, right? They're all doing arbitrage. The news gets first on Twitter because that's where news spreads fastest. Companies all make their announcements on Twitter, and then it gets picked up and eventually goes to all other socials. So I figured this out early. I grew that account, thank God, to 10 or 15,000 followers, right? My buddies and I never ended up launching the clothing brand, but that's when I found my first obsession with, I really like making news accounts. So keep in mind, I did not show my face. This was this was like just, they call them faceless pages.
Yeah. So how did you get comfortable? I'll get into that question soon because a lot of people are very uncomfortable about phone call. My bad. I thought I turned this off. Let's see, let me just airplane mode it. Yeah, a lot of people are very uncomfortable putting their face online. Even for me, when I was starting my podcast, I was like, oh, I don't know. And like, you kind of just get over it. You're like, okay, whatever. Like, you know, but I'm kind of curious how you went from a faceless page to.
So I faced that. So
yeah.
After that, what I started doing is I became really obsessed with YouTube. This was during the daily vlog days. So with the daily vlog days, it was a set of YouTubers who took on this insane commitment to make a video that was 10 minutes or longer every single day, right? And these are not podcast videos, right? These are literal, full-fledged, edited, high-quality videos, and they were posting them on YouTube every single day. So during this time, I was obsessed with like Casey Neistat. You know, I was even watching, I admit it, Jake Paul, you know, like all these folks who were really, really ambitious YouTubers and who were absolutely innovating in this world. And I was like, you know what, I could do this. I like this. So what I did is I started vlogging. I flew to New York with my brother and my sister. My sister just got married. She lived in New York. I would go visit her and I would vlog my trip. I flew to Hawaii with my family vacation. I would vlog my trip.
And you would post it.
So wait, not only did I make these full vlogs, film them, I edited them, but I never posted them. It's crazy. They're living on a computer somewhere in my parents' house. Actually, I think I gave it to my old, childhood housekeeper, that computer. But the idea is that I had full edited vlogs, and then it went even further than that. I had this in senior year. We had this class where I went to EULA, and we had this class where the rabbi, one of the head rabbis of the school, he had incredible businessmen from Los Angeles come out and speak to us about business and being religious, right? So there were always, religious, successful businessmen in Los Angeles. We got the opportunity to speak to so many learn from so many incredible Jewish businessmen, billionaires, people who were high writers in Hollywood, whatever. And the idea is that I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to start a podcast. And I called the pod. This is before podcasts were cool.
Yeah, that was before. It's only the past 5 years that it's blown up.
It's 2018, right? So I was like, I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it the mind of a determined, right? So it was like the whole idea was I'm going to speak with very successful people, and I was going to get into the mind of the people who are very ambitious. Mm-hmm. And I actually sat down with the head of my rabbi, one of the head rabbis in my school, who coordinated that whole class, and I said, listen, there were so many awesome people. Can you give me their emails? He immediately said yes. Great guy. Very good guy. And he gave me the emails of a guy who was like a very high politician, somebody who was a very successful money manager, right?
Same thing, financial advisor.
But he was more so at a high level, right? We're talking about a hedge fund rather than I would say. And then we had somebody, he was a lawyer for a hedge fund. And then we had all these incredible businessmen on also in real estate. And I sat down and I interviewed these guys and I did full-fledged podcast, edited them, and still didn't post it. So now,
do you have any of this content?
I don't know. I need to go back to my old camera. They're probably on SD cards, but like I said, that computer, I gave it to my housekeeper. It has all the edits, and I was editing on iMovie.
Oh, wow.
So just like shows you.
Well, but why didn't you post any of that? You're just...
I don't know. Looking back, the real answer is probably because I edited them, right? It's probably like a confidence issue where I was like, nobody's going to watch this. Nobody's going to want to listen. Nobody's going to care. But everything changed. So that was high school. I was constantly innovating and trying and this and that. Then COVID hits. And I'm sitting with one of my buddies, that same friend, Mendy. And he's like, yo, I'm online and I'm seeing everybody talking about these NFTs. And they're talking about NBA Top Shot in particular. I don't know if you ever heard about NBA Top Shot.
No.
So NBA Top Shot was like the first NFT that blew up, I guess, in the mainstream. And the idea was this company called Dapper Labs, which is a blockchain company, they got the rights to take video highlights from the NBA and sell them as individual moments. So we all know about trading cards, which is a photo that you could sell as a physical paper. What they were doing was via the blockchain, they were saying through NFTs, we're going to make 1,000 of these videos of Shaq dunking, whatever, it wasn't Shaq dunking, but like these modern NBA players dunking, and we're going to sell them as moments on the blockchain. And Ethereum was the main form of currency. So my buddy tells me about this. We just coming out of a shear, right? And I'm like, I'm not getting it, but there's something here. And I want to know why people are going so crazy for it in this, it was like a little Discord group that people were going crazy for. So I spent that whole night on this website, and I just said, screw it. I put like $1,000 in, and I just bought a bunch of these video moments. I wake up the next morning, and they like went up 20%, 30% in price. And I'm like, there's no way. So I continue buying and trading and selling, whatever. And then over the course of a week or two, that $1,000, $2,000 turned into like a very substantial amount of money. And I'm not going to say like hundreds, but it turned into like a substantial amount of money for a guy who's 18, 20, or 19 years old, right? 18 years old. So I start to be like, wow, there's something crazy in front of me right now, and nobody's talking about it outside of like little Discord and Twitter groups. Like I said, everything starts on Twitter, right? So I decided to go back to what I knew, which is the arbitrage. Take things that were being spoken
So
about.
stuff you see on Reddit, Twitter, you started talking about.
On Instagram and TikTok. This time TikTok was around. And I started making videos about the news, except this time they were videos. And what I was doing I was doing voiceover videos.
Okay, so still without your face.
Still without my face. But now I'm speaking. I'm speaking into a microphone. I'm still doing the graphic design for news because obviously they sell packs, and I'm one of the leading people. I'm the leading people a person on Instagram that gives news about NBA Top Shot pack releases, and it's in the form of graphic designs and voiceover. Then I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm showing my face. And at the time, I'm like in like big Baal Tshuva mode. I grew up religious, but like when I say Baal Tshuva, that's a whole separate conversation. I had like this big beard and like, you know,
oh, wow.
I'm like talking to the camera, and I'm going off, and these videos are blowing up. And the reason why they're blowing up is because people were making fun of what I'm doing. Like, come on, this NBA moment that just sold for like they were like moments that were selling for like $250,000. So I'm covering it, and there's like 600,000 views. The majority of the people are just hating. Next thing you know, Garry V picks it up, Logan Paul. NFTs become one of the biggest things during that 2021, era. And I end up shifting to like just talking about NBA Top Shot to talking about all NFTs. And I become one of the biggest names in the space very fast. I'm being flown out to Dubai. It's crazy very quickly. Went from like, just talking about little NBA moments to like becoming a real figure in crypto, blockchain, NFTs. And that's when everything shifted.
It's pretty crazy, like the power of social media. You can connect to with so many people.
Oh my God, I dropped out of college. I told my parents that I was taking a leave. I was like, I'm going to take 1 semester off. And then, once I take my semester off, I'll probably get back to it. And then I never did. I got married. In 2022. And yeah, I mean, it's been ever since they're just reinventing myself always through content and shifting and, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. No, it's really crazy. Like,
yeah.
And how does one make money like back then, in that space? Cause you're just creating content. Is it like you're getting sponsors or it's just you're networking, you're meeting people, or you're getting paid by AdSense? Like what incentivized you back then to like put all this time into creating content, into making all these videos, into constantly posting? Like how did that work?
That's a good question, because during the NFT days, I can't even describe how many messages I would get of people wanting me to promote their NFTs. I mean, for context, one of my biggest competitors, I'm not going to say their handle, they're banned now because of this, but one of my biggest competitors, they were taking all these scam sponsorship deals. Not only were they taking these scam sponsorship deals, but they were actually becoming partners with these scammers. So they were taking an upfront fee, and then when the NFT would sell out, they were making millions. And when I tell you they were making millions of dollars a day. This should turn into a movie. It's one of the craziest stories in Instagram media history, and it's not very.
It's like an individual person behind it, or it's a team of people.
It was a person who had a very big history in.
It's kind of like the meme coins that's happening now.
Yeah,
in a way,
but even worse, because it was like the meme coins. Now everyone agrees they have no value. Back then, NFTs were like, the technology itself is brilliant, but what was being sold then had no value, and nobody was accepting. Nobody realized that. So I'm getting offered these deals. When I tell you, dude, like deals that could potentially turn into millions of dollars, because my distribution was so large. I had 160,000 followers, right? For context, there were folks who had less followers than me that were selling out tens of millions of dollars in NFTs. Okay, just so you understand. I never made an NFT. I never accepted a partnership for an NFT. I never did any of that because I I knew there was still something not there yet, and it wasn't right.
You knew it wasn't like kosher.
I knew it wasn't kosher. So the way that I'm making money at the time is by trading NFTs, which is crazy. I'm trading NFTs. Oftentimes people would give me, early access to buying these NFTs because I was an influencer. They just wanted me to hold, to own it.
Arbitrage again, just like that.
Yeah, I mean, because they see, he's a famous person in the space. If he owns it, maybe other people will look at his wallet. Everything's public, and then they would give me access, and I make a lot of money by just trading crypto and NFTs. And keep in mind, this is 2021, 2022, 2021, really. If you bought any crypto during that time, if you bought majority of the NFTs out there, you were making money. It didn't take a chacham. You didn't have to be like a Talmud Babli like scholar to So that's how I was making my money. But then the NFT crash and the crypto crash comes in 22 because FTX and Three Arrows Capital, which is a VC that was investing in all these guys, all these guys collapsed at the same time. It was like Terra Luna, right? And boom, all of my investments in NFTs and crypto just go down the drain. And keep in mind, I just got married. I got married at 20 years old. Okay.
And you had all your money in NFTs.
And I had all my money in NFTs and crypto. Now what?
So then overnight you had to pivot. Did you pivot to, is that when you started like personal branding, marketing, business? Where I have to get something real or it's sustainable? Or?
So no. So I didn't do that yet. That's when, thank God I went back to the playbook and I was like, okay, how do I keep this attention? Because I got to get views. I love blockchain. I still to this day love blockchain. I consistently buy Bitcoin, right? Every week or so. And
that's $109,000 as we're speaking.
Yeah, thank God. So
when it crashed, I mean, I'm not Bitcoin got it all very boring investments, like basic index funds.
Yeah.
But I think when it dropped, when Trump announced the tariffs a few months ago, it went down to like 76,000. So I put in a little bit, and now I'm up like a lot. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I mean, I didn't put a lot of money in for everyone listening.
Good move.
Put a few $100 in, but like, it was like, whoa, I'm up 30-40% in 2 months. It's really wild. I can't imagine if you got in when you got in, buying in it.
Unfortunately, I didn't have any big. I had Ethereum, and that's down since when I had it. But at a certain point, I had to liquidate everything though, because listen, I went 20-year-old kid. Let's just say I went broke.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's a whole. We can go down that rabbit hole, but it was insane. I had to liquidate everything just to survive. And during that time, what I decided to do is I'm like, I've got to shift. And I'm on Twitter one day. Like I said, everything's arbitrage with me. I'm on Twitter. It always starts with Twitter. And there are a lot of these people talking about this company, OpenAI. Okay. I'm like, what is this? What is this company? So I start doing research. I learn about this guy named Sam Altman. Now it sounds like, Sam Altman, right?
Yeah.
I see that Elon Musk was an early advisor / donator, because it was a nonprofit at the time, like contributor to the invention of the business. And the first thing I saw about OpenAI was DALL-E, which was their image generator, their first image generator. And these images they're terrible compared to what we see today. But it's like people are writing, make me an image of Batman, and it's like this like really strange looking image of Batman. And I'm like, there's no way a single sentence made that image of Batman. It was a very bad image, right? But It was like, that's insane. So I start like following this. Then they launched ChatGPT, and it is a sensation. I'm one of the first 5 million people to use it, right? And I'm like, of the first 5 million, maybe a little more or less. I'm like, this is insane. It was ChatGPT 3, right? 3.0. I start to realize this is huge. This is huge. So I have this new technology in front of me, which is absolutely insane, which is OpenAI's ChatGPT, DALL-E, that whole thing. And I have 167,000 followers on Instagram, and I also have a whole set on TikTok, whatever, who follow me for blockchain news. So I'm like, I want to start talking about that. I don't want to start talking about blockchain. I will keep talking about blockchain, but blockchain stuff is not going viral right now. Everyone, when they hear blockchain, they get irked out right now. They had such a bad taste in their mouth in 2023, So what I decided to do was, I'm like, surely the people that like blockchain will start liking AI. I start talking about AI slowly. And I also gained a sponsor. So I had a sponsor at the time. I was able to, he was a blockchain Web3 sponsor. And while I'm talking about his product, I'm also talking about AI. And I'm shifting away until he's like, dude, you're no longer a blockchain page. You're like an AI page now. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but this is where I have to go. So I lose my sponsor, zero income, all in on AI now. And my videos are blowing up more than the blockchain. we're talking about 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 8 million views. Okay. And I shifted my page from talking about strictly blockchain to talking about all technology. Like earlier we were talking about niches.
Yeah.
I went from a micro niche to a macro niche, which was technology, because now I could talk about blockchain and I could talk about AI.
Because you're like the technology guy.
I could talk about the new fighter jet from Anduril, like a new, the new company that's going to be the next military darling in America, right? Because it's all tech. It all falls under this umbrella of technology. And the idea is that now I'm back in terms of my viewership, and sponsorships, they start coming in. AI companies start sponsoring me. So the business is rolling again in terms of now I actually trust these companies. Before, I barely trusted the blockchain companies. I only worked with select, like Algorand, like some that were very real businesses. And I would have to be very selective to make sure they weren't scammers. But now it's VC. It's startups. These are all businesses that actually have the potential to become massive. I trust them a lot more, so I could take a lot more sponsorship deals. Some of those businesses that were my clients that I sold sponsorships to are huge now. They're huge, well-funded, $100 million plus businesses, $100 million businesses. So it was great. It was a great shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, now it's becoming more, I guess, normalized, like the whole content creation world. But like, I feel like even 5 years ago it was like looked down upon for people in your space. Like, especially I could be wrong, but especially in the religious community, it's like, oh, that guy does content, or that guy does that, like, but it's becoming like entrepreneurial almost, like legitimately.
For sure.
Like, so I guess I'm curious, like a lot of people who listen to this podcast are involved in real estate, and they're not necessarily in the content creation world, but I'm curious what you think, like how, let's say someone who's a developer or someone who's a real estate investor, how they can use content to help their business.
So what I would always tell people is, like, first of all, you gotta have a content. You don't have to have this, but there are two ways to approach content. One of them is like, I make money doing something else, but I love what I do so much that if I just pick up a phone and start talking about what I'm doing, it'll get views. Or it doesn't have to get views. I just want to pick up a phone and start talking about what I'm doing because I'm so passionate about it, and I just want to yell it to the world. That guy will grow very fast because that guy has nothing to sell you, and that guy is very passionate about what he likes to do, and people gravitate towards passionate people. People gravitate towards passionate people. That's a very real thing, and that's who's winning in the creator economy now. In the world of content creation. The second thing is be very intentional. So that guy, thank God, hopefully his business keeps growing and he doesn't have to rely on his content. But the other guy who perhaps is like, no, I want to use content as a form of exposure to grow my business. You have to be very intentional. And what I mean about that is, if you're a real estate guy, don't start making videos educating young folks about real estate who are at the bottom if your main goal is to attract investors, right? Because the investors are not going to watch your content that's just talking about like very low level, beginner stuff. The investors are going to watch content that relates to them. So what do I see some people doing? What I see some people doing is they'll talk about markets in certain cities. So, there's this guy, Omar Morales, right? We live in Miami. We're in Miami right now. This guy covers all the latest developments in Miami, right? And he talks about what's going on Collins in Bal Harbor, and he talks about what's going on in Edgewater, all the new developments, who's involved, and XYZ. The people who like that content are investors because they want to know the same way they follow the real deal, right?
Yeah.
They want to know what deals are happening and who's behind those deals and how much what was their construction loan, how much was raised, blah, 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 right? So that guy has the opportunity to open the door to a lot more people who are investors because his content serves investors. Okay. So if you are starting a social media with the intention of doing X, make sure that it's your goal is to be at Y. Make sure it serves the people who are in Y. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the best advice I can give.
Mm-hmm. No, it makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, what like in the content world, what are trends you're seeing now that are very exciting? Like what's like the newest, hottest thing now?
It's so hard to tell, man. There are so many amazing trends happening at all times. But what I will say is the like daily vlog thing that we were talking about, that's kind of coming back. People love to see the day-to-day of people's lives. And another thing that I've noticed is like shows of sorts are coming back. Like, for example, there are people who own businesses, and like they'll start a YouTube channel talking about, the day-to-day of like what happens in the office, right? And that's getting a lot of attention, whether it be posted on TikTok, whether it be posted on Instagram, or whether it be posted on...
Yeah, you did one for WAP, right? What goes on in their office. I saw that. But that was like really interesting.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but that was like my video. But like imagine if WAP, for example, WAP, they make their own content, funny enough, and their content is very successful. But like a good way to put this is like there's like that guy, many people watching this might know this guy, Amalfi Jets. So Amalfi Jets is like a company that based out of Calabasas, California. They are like a concierge service for like booking private jets for people. And what he does is he puts these little skits on, and like a conversation between him and his employee about how they should handle a customer, or a customer calls and the customer's like, hey, I want to book a jet and I want this jet to have 100, hot dogs. And like he records that call, whether it be fake, whether it be satire or real is besides the point. People are highly entertained by that like real interaction of what it looks like to work in a concierge service for booking private jets, that he has gone insanely viral. So like these like little reality shows of what takes place in an office is blowing up right now. It's
interesting.
Yeah.
I think you posted on LinkedIn, or I think it was Threads. You said the thumbnail is your billboard, title is your promise, and the intro is your commercial. So curious if you can explain that when it comes to people, creating content on YouTube and how they can do better, and what you mean exactly by that.
The way that I think about it is always from the perspective of the user. You have to be very empathetic of the YouTube user. In this case, we're talking about YouTube.
Yeah, like their time, you're saying.
Not necessarily, their time, but also they're scrolling what's going on, right? So the thumbnail is the first thing that they see. Many folks could say, oh, I read the title first, but at least for me, maybe you, I see the thumbnail first. And the idea is that the thumbnail is your billboard because that's your form of marketing, right? That's how you catch the person's eye. The title, you have to give a promise. Many people say, I put, 100 hot dogs in a swimming pool, right? Whatever. That's your promise. This video has to have 100 hot dogs be put in a swimming pool.
Okay.
That's going to get the person to click. That's your marketing right there, right? That's the only form of marketing that you have in a traditional YouTube video. The second thing is the intro is your commercial. In the first 30 seconds to 1 minute or 1 minute and a half, the viewer has to get a glimpse of what they're going to be looking at and why they should watch this thing. Because they need to, first of all, they need to know that they didn't get duped. There was a huge culture, 2016, 2015, even 2017 it was called... clickbaiting,
right? Like fake thumbnails, right?
Fake thumbnails, not fake thumbnails, but titles and that were just misleading. So they need to know in the first minute and a half that I'm not being duped. Okay, so you got to give them a commercial with video proof that what you showed them in the thumbnail and what you showed them in the title, it's worth their time, and they should give you the 30 minutes, the 20 minutes, the 10 minutes, however long the video is. You deserve that time because they're going to get a payoff, right? So that's what that dynamic is. And that's what commercials are. Commercials, they give you a glimpse into what you're going to see in this movie and why you should watch them, why this movie deserves your time. And that's what the intro is. Mm-hmm. Once you get past that intro, then you get into the meat. But the intro is what keeps them going.
Interesting. Yeah, that's what I started doing with my podcast. Like when I first started, I didn't have any intros, and I started taking little clips that might be that I think people would find interesting on topics, and just like cut them. So like the first 40 seconds would be like, this topic, and then people are like, okay, this is what I'm getting into, and then I'll do like an intro. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I don't know if
Absolutely.
I should change it or...
it's been working. You showed me some of your results that you had with some folks, like those videos, those little clips, that one that you showed me with the guy holding the gun right here, right? And, and then eventually you guys got into like you gave a little snippet of the conversation, then you went into the interview.
Yeah.
That performed, your retention on that was huge.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like, I think the average retention was 49 minutes for an hour and a half podcast.
Crazy. And that, it shows you,
right? It had like 1,400 watch hours, and that was like my third podcast on this show.
Exactly. Imagine if you didn't have that intro, and the main juice and where it gets interesting only happens at 5 minutes. They're not going to stay for 5 minutes because you didn't give them a reason to stay until 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. You have to give them a reason to stay. right at the beginning.
What are your thoughts on AI and how it affects content creation for
AI is
the
everywhere.
pros and cons? Because there's obviously a lot of pros, but I'm curious about the cons because everyone's talking about the pros, right?
Okay, so, I used to say this, and I completely retract my statement. There are a lot of people out there, especially on LinkedIn and Twitter and whatever. AI won't replace your job. AI will replace those who don't use AI. It's true. AI, or people say out there, like, it's true, but wait, AI will create more jobs. That I don't believe. I actually think that AI will take jobs. I don't say this in like I'm calling doomsday. No. The world will be just fine. Thank God humans are brilliant. We're an incredible thing, right? Humans. But I genuinely do believe that the system that we all grew up in, no matter everybody living today grew up in, it's about to be shattered. And the reason being, it's so incredibly powerful and brilliant what it could do. Not only that, Google just released, they had this conference called I.O. I think they call it I.O. And the idea is that they just launched all their newest AI tools, that they are these new AI, suites that they're going to be implementing into all their softwares, Google softwares. One of them was called Flow, and it's a whole new video generation software. And filmmakers, content creators now, instead of having to go out and film, I want to have a Jeep driving through mud and there's a big splash. I don't have to film. I could just type it, and this video generator is perfect, near perfect. I would say it will be perfect in like 2-3 years.
For like B-roll, you're saying?
Beyond B-roll, you can make a full movie out of this. They have speech. Like there was a whole test of somebody asking Flow on Google's new tool, can you make me a 2-minute clip of a comedian standing on stage and he's saying a joke? And there's a guy who's not a real person on stage giving a full joke. The crowd is reacting. You can't tell it's fake. And by the way, keep in mind, a year ago, AI video was so embarrassing. It's 1 year later, and it's so good that me, somebody who's looking at AI all day, I cannot tell it's fake. So my whole point is, if you're smart, you tinker and use every AI tool possible, imaginable. If you have an office, you make sure that all your employees are using AI. And if they're not, they are not an adaptive person. And that's a very big problem. And they need to change their mentality. Those are the people who will get fired. But at the same time, you're also going to see massive companies. Like there are businesses that, we talked about technology. There are companies that have achieved unicorn status, which means they're $1 billion company, with 20 employees, 15 to 20 employees. Because nowadays, you don't need so many software engineers. There are AI tools that do the engineering for you, the main bulk of the engineering for you. Now, one engineer, if he's good, is the equivalent of 20. Okay? Maybe 10, right? I'm not going to be that exaggerating, but you don't need a full team of production and videography and all these things. You can do an insane amount of stuff, with one camera guy, a good script writer, blah, 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 and make a really, really good ad, as long as the guys know how to use AI tools. So it's like, it's crazy. Like the job market is shrinking, that's for sure. But the opportunity for business owners to make a lot of money, the profit margins are going up like crazy. That's the profit.
Just a lot more efficient, everything.
Oh my gosh, your overhead is the overhead is it's so little now. So that's what I would say. It's like really, but we're entering the age of entrepreneurship, right? Meaning you have to be an entrepreneur now. You got to be an entrepreneur, or you have to be super skilled at AI, a very efficient person with all the AI tools in your respective field. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And what are the main AI tools you're using now for your media agency?
There's nothing.
What's your go-to?
Oh, ChatGPT is like everything for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? I very frequently use image generators. I was using Midjourney, but now ChatGPT has gotten to the point where it's just as good, if not better. Right? Midjourney was an image generator. We use tools like Kling or Sora, which is also by OpenAI, to like animate our videos, for clients, so that it turns into like full-fledged videos. Obviously, I'm very much so planning on using all the new video tools from Google now. Flow. That's going to be exciting. It just came out today, and yeah, I mean, I also use like for voice generation. I clone a lot of my clients. A lot of times I film with a client, right? We film with the CEO, and the CEO makes a little bit of a mistake, but we filmed it, right? So what I'll do is I'll clone their voice. I'll clone their voice, and I'll type in what they were supposed to say, and then it will spit out what they were supposed to say, and then I could fill it in, put some B-roll on top. Nobody knows.
So what are the possible dangers do you find with this? Can people take, let's say, your face, create a whole AI video of you doing something that was illegal or you saying something that's not true, and just like how are people in the police and gonna know in the future what's real, what's not? Like if it's getting this good.
It's obviously scary. I saw this thing yesterday or 2 days ago that Trump put out it's like an AI act where I saw it for like bad sexual content that people do for people. Those guys they will face real repercussions. I think even jail time, right? If
you create a video of someone
of somebody doing a sexual situation, right? Like Trump is putting out a law where like you will face real repercussions if you do something like that. When it comes to the other stuff, right, of making a joke about them, like oftentimes we've all seen this videos of like Trump and Trump and Putin dancing, right, with like dresses on or whatever, like people kissing, Trump and Zelensky kissing,
Yeah.
And like these are so outlandishly fake, even though they look real. They're so obviously that didn't happen that I don't know if they're going to start charging for like memes that were done with AI. But we're entering that era. We're entering the era where memes, videos, viral videos will all be fake, generated with AI, where people at a first glance, if they don't understand and they don't have this, like, they don't adapt to realizing, oh, this is an AI video, they're going to get duped. But there has to be there's a line. They're definitely going to make a line where it's like, no, this is a big no. This is defamation. You're harming this person's brand, and versus like, hey, it was a joke. Everyone knows it's fake. Listen, we're survival of the fittest. Right now, it's all about adapting and really, really staying mentally like logged in on like learning about all this, having an AI detector in your brain, like that. It's very important to have that.
Like I'm a late adopter to AI. Like ChatGPT now I use. I can't imagine it. Like
you can't imagine we're without it, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, for example, like I had a previous podcast before this one, which was from Forward, and then I kind of rebranded it recently, like a month and a half ago, to the YM show. But one of the main reasons I got burnt out was because of all the copyright, all the description, right? I'd be like, today I had on this guest, we talked about it, because like just typing, I'm a slow typer, right? And like just typing and thinking of what, I have to give me a summary, like that took me 20, 30 minutes. Now I just talk in ChatGPT, I tell exactly what we did with 30 seconds. I speak really quickly into it and it writes me a perfect little thing. I can tweak it, make it more fun, make it more this, make it more playful. And then I can say add in my email, blah, blah, blah. And just like it does what would take me 30 minutes in 30 seconds. So it just made that like super efficient. Like for example, titles was another thing. Like I made a podcast and I'll be like, okay, what should I title this? So I have to sit there for 30 minutes and think of a good catchy title. But now it's like, okay, I talked to Joseph Abehsera about AI, business, and media. Give me 10 catchy titles. And now, 5 seconds, you have 10 super catchy titles. So like just stuff like that has made my life so much more efficient in terms of content creation. Also in work and emails, and take a picture of an Excel spreadsheet. Hey, categorize this for me. There's just so much it can do now. So it's just. And
have you heard about the dead internet theory?
No.
So the dead internet theory is crazy because it's so realistic. So what you were saying is,
well, people won't use Google anymore and stuff like that.
No,
I'm just using ChatGPT now.
It's even crazier. I mean, it leads into what you just said right there. But the idea is that before, everybody actually had to use their brain power to make content, right? Whether it be copywriting and to make a description or a YouTube description, whatever it was human powered.
Yeah.
Now everyone's using ChatGPT to make all their writing, whether it be a brand that's doing their legal jargon, right? Or a website designer who's designing all the little nuanced details of the company at the About Us page, right? So whenever an AI model is training itself on what's out there on the internet, Now it's at the point where it's training itself on AI generated stuff.
Interesting.
So the idea, but it goes even further than this. What happens when all the social media content, the majority of it is also AI generated? So the video generators are also training themselves on themselves. Okay? This is crazy.
So it gets to a point where what natural organic content without AI is going to go viral again. It's going to like a pendulum, you're saying.
It's basically, it's saying we're like, there's going to be a point where AI will flood the internet so much where the internet will just be robots communicating with robots, right? Like I have my AI answer your AI, and then your AI answers my AI.
Yeah, I'll do that on boring emails.
I mean, of course.
Like, respond to this and answer every question, blah, 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 and it just like.
But imagine when it comes to the point where it's like, okay, I don't want to answer my comments on LinkedIn. Just, I set up an AI bot that just answers all of my comments on my LinkedIn posts. But then the people that are commenting on your LinkedIn post are also, they don't want to comment on LinkedIn posts, but they want to stay, they want to have a good relationship with you. So they have an AI commenting on your LinkedIn post until it's just AI talking to AI, and the internet is dead. There's no humans. It's just AIs. This is the dead internet theory. It's crazy, but it's so realistic. And it's like, it's not horrifying. It's just, in my opinion, it's hilarious. I think there will obviously be a product out there that will solve this human void of us needing to communicate with each other.
Yeah, I think it's like people are fear-monger about this. I'm not saying you're fear-mongering at all, but I feel like natural conversation and real human emotions always going to trump it. Yeah. Like, for example, like podcasting now, like who would have thought people were like, we have the attention span of a pea brain, right? Nobody was like, everyone just scrolling, but for some reason people want real content. People are watching 3-4 hour Joe Rogan podcasts now. Like, that podcast take me 2 weeks to finish. I'm listening to it on the way to work, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But people are fiending for real conversations
and info and they want experiences, human thoughts. Like they want that. It's very people also love to learn about other humans now. It's a very, before everyone liked like acting and, all these fake stories. Now it's like, no, I want real perspective. I want real human stories. Which is like, it's so funny because on one end, we're becoming so artificial. On the other end, we're becoming so human. We're like, we want to know more about humans. I want to know more about politics and what's going on in the Middle East or what's going on in Southeast Asia, I think it's funny. Yeah.
Very cool. So like, how does being a religious Jew affect your content creation and in fact, how you, I guess, lead and create?
I mean, I love it. Like I had this situation, not a situation, but I don't know if you saw this. I had the opportunity to give Mark Zuckerberg a mezuzah. So
really,
Meta, yeah.
No way. I saw you were with Gary V yesterday or something like that.
So I was with Gary V yesterday. That was random, but
isn't
also
he Jewish
cool.
too? Like,
yeah. I brought my film, but the opportunity did not present itself.
Start whooping out film.
It was a public setting, and like the sun started to set.
Where was this?
It was a buddy of mine who's a content creator. He's a huge YouTuber in like the Lego space. Okay. Shout out to Logan. He lives here in Miami area. He calls me. He's like, "Yo, I'm going to this event. I was invited by some folks over who are huge TikTokers, like a TikTok family." Mm. And he's like consulting with them, and he's consulting them with them, helping them to build their YouTube channel because that's his specialty. And he's like, "Gary V's going to be there as well. Come join." Right? We're like working together on like, little things that we're doing for clients, whatever. So we're, we have that relationship, and I just decided to join. Normally I'd be like, I got work, but this time I was like, let's just have fun. Sometimes
Gary V's hilarious. He's super fun. Yeah, he's super authentic.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to go on a side quest also. I mean, whatever, that was a whole separate thing, but for the Mark Zuckerberg though. So Meta, every large tech company right now is trying to win in AI, right? And as I was telling you earlier in the podcast, the idea, behind some of these businesses is they stopped inviting traditional tech media companies like Fox News, CNN, and Bloomberg and all those guys to cover what they're doing. They're still giving them information. They're still inviting them, but they really started to lean heavily into like those who are covering their stuff in the creator economy, the influencers in their space, right? Mm-hmm. So I made it to this list of people that were invited. But beyond that, okay, so let me give you the actual context here. I'm invited. The event is like 4 or 5 months out. I'm invited by some folks over at Meta. They directly DM me. We hop on a meeting. They're like, "We want you to come out." Great. I immediately tell my wife, I'm like, I have to do something. If I have the opportunity to meet Mark Zuckerberg, I have to do something Jewish with him. Religious, Jewish. I have to do something I have to do a mitzvah with him. So the mitzvah that obviously I'm a Lubavitcher Jew. My name is Yosef Yitzchak, right? Even though I'm Moroccan and I look very Sephardic, I am Sephardic. I pray out of a Sephardic book, but I'm very much so Lubavitch in my brain. I want to do tefillin with him, but I'm like, come on. Is the opportunity going to present myself? Like, am I going to actually have the opportunity to do tefillin with this guy? He's going to be presenting on stage, announcing his newest technology that they did at Meta. Am I going to stop him amongst the crowd and be able to rap tefillin with him? I was like, that's too ambitious. So I said mezuzah, right? Not many people know this, by the way. The miftzayim that everyone knows is tefillin, but there's actually like 10 forms of miftzayim. One of them is giving people a mezuzah, giving them Shabbat candles, whatever. Right? So I thought mezuzah was a great way to do this. So I, not knowing that I would actually see him, just like hoping that God would make it work out, I ended up going to New Jersey before I traveled to San Francisco to go see some, in-laws of mine. I go to the store to buy the cloth, right? And I'm like looking at all the cloth and I'm like, yo, if I'm going to give Mark Zuckerberg a mezuzah, I have to make sure that the person, the sofer has to be a very holy person. I'm like, he had to have holy thoughts. He has to be a good, So what I did was I stood there for like 30 minutes, like reading all the cloth, like through the cloths, right?
People listening, cloth is a scroll.
The mezuzah scroll, yeah. So I'm looking and I found one that I liked. It was very pretty. It wasn't too large. It was good. And I said, who wrote this? So the guy told me who it was, great guy, lives in Brooklyn. I made sure he was very, just had a good reputation. I bought it. And then I was looking at the cases and I was like, I got to buy something, that's not too out there so that I can increase the chances of him putting it on his wall. Most doorposts these days in the modern era are all white. Bought a nice white case. So bought it, whatever. Go to San Francisco, land in San Francisco. I checked the agenda, the email they sent all the creators that were invited in an agenda. In the agenda, it says private green room. I'm like, what is it says, okay, after the event, you're going to go to the private green room. So I had some buddies, they're all big tech creators, they're all big AI creators. I'm like, yo, did you get this? Some of them are like, no, I didn't get that. I don't have that on my, itinerary. The bigger creators are like, yeah, I got that. I'm like, what's going to happen on that? In the green room? He's like, we're going to meet Mark. And we're going to meet the CEO of Instagram, right? So I'm like, no way. So I ended up actually, not only did I end up having the opportunity privately with him to give it to him, but, I have a moment with him, like a dedicated moment with him, in a room privately, right? So like, that was crazy. So I'm in this room, I introduced myself to him and I'm like, I brought you a gift. And this guy is tripping out. He is tripping out. He's like, the girl who I'm in contact with, right? I could tell that she's panicking as well. She's like, oh, no,
Like,
right?
What do they think? What do you think you have?
I don't know what they thought I had. So I reached into my pocket. I have this thing in my pocket all day, right? I reach into my pocket and I'm like, it's in a box, right? I'm like, the moment you see it, you're going to know exactly what it is, right? So I give it to him. He opens it up and the whole room goes silent, okay? From the corner of my eye, I see the camera guy run. When I tell you he ran, he runs and he snaps a photo. In that moment.
Do you have a photo of it?
I have a photo.
I'll have the editor put it here so everyone can see if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify.
So keep in mind, I had no intentions of telling anybody about this. It's not my type to tell people about these things. But now there's a photo. But that's besides the point. What happens is he opens it up and he goes like, oh my gosh, a mezuzah. And then he stares at me and we locked eyes and he's like, thank you. That's a very thoughtful, that's a really nice gift. And I gave him a blessing. I was like, I hope, listen, you have a very important mission. I gave him a blessing that he should do what's right. And that was it. And then the girl that he was with, she was like, good gift, right?
They were nervous.
So, because the whole idea is, how do you give a guy who's worth $100 billion, how do you give him a gift, right? There's not a gift in the world that I can give him unless it's something that will actually touch his neshama, right? Not to be corny here, but...
Yeah, something spiritual, touch his soul.
And it absolutely did. And I could tell you that was, and it was the first time I think he ever... Not the first time, one of the few times that this guy ever had in his life, somebody who came with no intentions of wanting from him, but just purely to give to him.
Yeah, it wasn't like some people... Like, for example, I'm assuming you're thinking of this, maybe you're not. people want to gift influencers like their stuff or their brand, like, oh, take my newest this or that. So, so it's like, oh, Mark Zuckerberg uses my XYZ, whatever the product is. But it's like, no, this is something I bought just for you.
Yeah, exactly. It has nothing. There's no benefit for me here. The only thing I want is for you to own this thing, which will be spiritually empowering for you to have.
That's
it
really
will protect
special.
you.
I think Patrick or David, when he started podcasting, when no one was listening to him, now he's huge. But he said, like, instead of people like, gifting their own merch to people, he's like, no, like, I gifted special items of like, collectible this, collectible that to like big like people when he was first starting podcasting, like when he was, when he was first, starting.
I remember I was a listener. He had Kobe in the early days. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was ambitious. He would travel everywhere to interview people.
He paid people, by the way. In the early days, I have a feeling.
But I feel like he would just, he would just travel. He'd go.
It's possible.
He was doing like 5 a week. I mean, like,
listen, to get Kobe's crazy.
But he blew up. But Patrick David just blew up.
Yeah, but before this is before he blew up. He got Kobe. I mean, you guys can look back and see, like, he got Kobe. He got Kobe when he was actually still not really somebody, which is crazy. Kobe's probably one of the hardest people to get.
Yeah,
was probably one of the hardest people to get in the room with at the time in America. It was. But yeah, anyways, that's
very cool. No, very cool.
So that's how Judaism.
On a tangent here.
Yeah, no, but that's how Judaism spills into my thing. And often, obviously, you have the anti-Semites, the DMs, the crazy.
Yeah, you have a lot of those, really.
Yeah, but you know what? Those guys. Our job is Our job is to spread light. Obviously, I see a lot of crazy stuff, and sometimes it affects it can affect you. But our job is to just do good, and who cares what darkness has to say? You know what I mean? Like negativity, darkness, evil. It's just like Chabad believes. I mean, all Judaism is this, Chassidut is this, but the idea that darkness has no substance, it's just merely an absence of light. If you want to remove darkness, just add light, right? If you're in a dark room and you can't find the doors and it's a dark room, all you got to do is just light one match and everything, you could see everything. A tiny little light dissipates darkness, right? So that's how you have to think about it.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. I guess I'll have some closing thoughts. We'll wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's been awesome so far. So you're saying you're launching. I mean, we kind of touched this in the beginning, right? You're launching your new stealth project. When are you going to be like talking about that publicly, or is that still you don't know when you're going to launch it yet? Still doing all the beta testing.
So the biggest advantage that I feel like I have owning a marketing agency is that, listen, I think this is actually, you were talking about Patrick, Brett David. He's the one who said this. You want to become super wealthy. Sorry, you want to become super rich. Become a good salesman. You want to become extremely wealthy. Become really good at marketing, right? So the advantage that I have, thank God, Baruch Hashem, I'm blessed, where my father owned a marketing agency. He sold that business. He owned a really awesome marketing agency for 20 plus years. I was around marketing my whole life. And that was pretty much all I knew without even realizing it. And I ended up starting a marketing agency. And now the idea is that I help other people market their businesses through social. And thank God we've been very successful.
You've done huge companies. Like, what's that new startup that does the flying?
Yeah, Doroni. They're one of my clients. Yeah, we helped them get hundreds of thousands of views organically, helped them, raise a ton of money, and it's been super fun. But like the idea is like, I've always wanted to start my own business. And I've started businesses over the course of the past 4 or 5 years that have, I have my businesses that have succeeded, my media company, and I have my Visible. These are businesses that are generating revenue, thank God. But what about all the businesses that nobody knows about that have failed?
Yeah.
There are so many businesses that have failed that I just had to ditch. I had businesses that I spent a ton of money on, had employees, and it went nowhere. Just pulled the plug.
Yeah. So that's how you learn. I mean, it's beautiful that you're doing. A lot of people, I have like paralysis analysis, and they're like, oh, well, this won't work because this is saturated, that's saturated, this is that. Or they always have like an excuse. It's like, it's cool because you went through, you did it, you started a business, failed, and then now you have a profitable media agency, and now you're launching another thing, which is cool. It's like you're just getting repetitions in. It's kind of like the gym. You go to failure, and you're okay, you lower the weight, you move it up, like you eventually just figure it out.
It's
like business, fun. It's like a game. Like
you gotta love it. You have to love it because failing sucks. When you have to go to the back of the barn and shoot the horse in the head, it sucks. Okay, because it sucks because you just spent a lot of energy, especially when you put a year in. Right there, I had this one business that I had no business being in. It was like a newsletter. I had this whole epiphany that I'm going to make a lot of money in a newsletter because that I could just sell ads and blah, 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 and I could resell it, whatever. I started a newsletter. I had no business being in that industry. I had a lot of people that were signed up that were awesome, right? Big creators, big folk, big people in tech. But no matter how much how much energy I gave, I gave it my all, my koiches,
Yeah, you get all your power.
And it drained me. And after a year, money, energy, there was nothing. And I'm like, I've got to pull the plug. This is the time. You got to pick your battles in life. So how did I get here? I got here because now, thank God, I have a business, a startup where my father is a co-founder in the business. My brother-in-law is a co-founder in the business. And it's funny because we all share an office, right? We said at the beginning of this podcast that I'm in the same building as you. I work in an apartment building that we have an apartment building that we share. We converted it into an office.
Yeah,
right?
You have like a studio there. You have like a podcast
it's fun.
studio.
No, it's great. So we work together every day. My brother-in-law owns an e-commerce business. My father is in marketing, high-level marketing. And what we did is we took all of our skill sets and we started a software business where we all are able to contribute in an incredibly what's the word that I'm looking for here? In an incredibly like collaborative, but also everybody has a role to play. And when you have that, where this beautiful synchronized activity in a company, it's amazing. And we're building something that all of our beta testers have been super proud of. And the problem we're solving is huge. And I'll give you a little hint at what we're solving. So obviously I'm a content creator, and obviously I understand the world of marketing. What we've built is a product that allows those who are buying ads on Meta to be a lot more efficient. And it has to do with the creator economy as well, where those who create content and have a huge following can make money as well. And marketers and brands and content creators can sync up and work together and benefit each other greatly, both financially and for growth, etc. While simultaneously, the creator does not necessarily have to create an ad for them, and the brand, it doesn't necessarily have to buy a video that might not perform, right? So it's like this beautiful way for both brand and creator to sync up and make money together while both of them grow their businesses. And it's extreme. Listen, that was very vague, and that's all I could say right now.
No, it's totally fine.
I want to have so the reason why I got into marketing is because I'm a marketer, I want to make an awesome launch video, and I want to launch this proper. I want to have, there's something in tech. In real estate, it's not like this. In real estate, right, for example, when do you launch? I have a question for you. You're doing a development, ground up development, okay?
Yeah.
When do you launch all the marketing material?
I don't do development, so I wouldn't know.
But if somebody's doing ground up development, when are they launching all the marketing material?
I mean, I'm assuming they would first go about, acquiring the land,
raising the capital.
Once they have the land, this is all me thinking out loud. I'm not a developer, so anyone listening is like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's saying. I probably don't. But I'm assuming they first look at the markets. They go, okay, we can get this amount in X amount of rent. We can build 100 units here. Okay, the property, the values, it's worth this. They buy the land. Okay, they start pulling permits, or it's already zoned for permits. So we have it zoned to build an apartment complex. So then they start getting investors to start building it, or they get a construction loan. They get approved for a construction loan, and then they start going ahead. And once they're building the construction, then they start selling out units. They get a leasing office across the street. It's kind of what I've seen, but I'm not a developer. I do boring value add real estate.
But once they did the groundbreaking, right? Once they actually broke ground, right? Then what they'll start doing is they'll start to market it as the development is actually going up. Correct?
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. I mean, because once they have everything rolling, they have their permits, they have the funding for construction, they have their layouts, they have everything. This is what the unit's going to look like. Then they could start selling it as it's being built, I think.
Exactly. So this is the same situation. Right now, the software is being built. It's under construction. It's obviously not in its final form, right? Obviously. But we want to market it when we know that we have something that everybody can come and start buying and being customers in large droves, right? A developer that's doing ground up is not going to start marketing their building, before they got the construction loan,
Yeah.
So we're at that stage, but once everything is pieced together and it's good enough and we've got something that we could start accepting large droves of customers, I want to get out and put a beautiful video, an incredible video that shows the problem that we're solving, hopefully achieve some sense of virality so that we can accept, people with open arms. Like that's how I see it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming on the show. I think a lot of people learned a lot. I learned a lot here. I learned about a lot of different topics that I'm not used to.
Yeah.
And that's why I loved doing this.
I appreciate it. And I'm sorry for anybody if I spoke fast, man.
No, it's fine. Most people speed up their podcasts. I speak fast too, so they won't have to speed this one up. Kind of like Ben Shapiro. I put everything at 1.5, but in Ben Shapiro, I just leave it at like 1.1, 1.2.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Wait, so where can people reach you on your, what's your Instagram? I'll have my editor put it over here, or whatever it is, your Instagram handle. And then if they can reach you via email or however people can reach you in your businesses.
Yeah. So my handle is Joseph Abehsera, literally just Joseph Abehsera, JOSEPHABEHSERA. You could find me on LinkedIn. You could DM me on LinkedIn. I'll see it there. But if you'd like to email me, if you're looking for marketing services or whatever it is, Joseph@visible.io. You have to skip the second I. That was obviously taken by not Verizon, but another company. And it's
visible.io.
So it's JOSEPH@VISBLE.io.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you everyone for listening. And I guess before we tune out, like and subscribe. Every little subscription on this little podcast helps. Share it with a friend. If you don't want to subscribe, at least share it with someone if you found any value in it. I mean, if you're still here an hour and 17 minutes later, I mean, you probably found some value.
Definitely smash that subscribe button.
So just subscribe or share. It helps, grow this little pod. Thank you so much.
Awesome, dude.